What do the results of the recent presidential election say about what is happening in America? We'll talk about what the election means and how all Americans can still have a voice. That's right now on Be the People.
I believe in America. I'm not giving up on the land I love. I believe in one nation strong, where my heart belongs, where I call my home.
Greetings from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Carol Swain, and this is Be the People, a weekly half-hour show dedicated to the social, cultural, and political issues of today. In this show, we examine what happened during the presidential election and some of the controversial issues surrounding the outcome. During his concession speech, Republican nominee Mitt Romney talked about how the principles Americans hold dear must endure regardless of the outcome of the election.
Our leaders have to reach across the aisle to do the people's work. And we citizens also have to rise to the occasion. We look to our teachers and professors. We count on you not just to teach, but to inspire our children with a passion for learning and discovery. We look to our pastors and priests and rabbis and counselors of all kinds to testify of the enduring principles upon which our society is built: honesty, charity, integrity, and family. This election is over, but our principles endure. I believe that the principles upon which this nation was founded are the only sure guide to a resurgent economy and to renewed greatness.
Joining me to start the discussion are Wall Street Journal columnist James Taranto, who is editor of the online opinion page, opinionjournal.com, and assistant professor of political science at Elon University, Jason Husser. James, what do you make of Governor Romney's statement?
Well, I think the thing that I find troubling about the results of the election is that it was won by a man who really was not running on enduring principles. I mean, Barack Obama's campaign was a campaign of identity politics. He was trying to get people to vote their race, their sex. It
worked.
Well,
he won.
Right, that's what I said. And so it's now, at the same time, the Republicans held the House and lost only a very few seats. So why did that happen? Well, because the people who were amenable to that sort of appeal to identity politics are all concentrated in the big cities. If you look at the big swing states, Colorado and all the ones that are bigger, they all have Republican majority House delegations. Obama carried every one except for the professor's home state of North Carolina, which Romney narrowly carried. So Republicans still have a stronghold in the House because their appeal is broader, because their voters are more spread out geographically. Oh. If you look at the map, you see these the House map, you see these little dots of blue with vast seas of red. The blue are the big cities. They have more people, and that's how Obama was able to get those margins in the swing states.
And Jason, you do a lot of your poster. Could you tell us what you have found?
Well, to echo James's points, we do see these demographic changes happening throughout the country. So we see sort of growing Hispanic populations. We see changes in economic voting throughout the country. We also see changes in sort of how urban voters are differing from rural voters. And so the Obama campaign was sort of very effective at tapping into these changes throughout.
And the polls, we heard differing opinions. In fact, some people say that the Romney camp, they were shocked by the fact that they lost. What was going on there?
So the big concern about the polls was what people were doing with these likely voters. And so likely voters differ from election to election. Some elections we have high turnout, other elections we have low turnout. And so the concern was that polls were sort of saying too many people were likely voters. Now it turned out in this time that the polls were not wrong in this, but just because it was this way in 2012 doesn't mean in future elections that this same narrative will hold.
Well, to be a little more specific, what made people like me suspicious of the polls was the breakdown of party identification. Romney consistently led among independents. So if you have an equal number of Republicans and Democrats voting, the guy who leads among independents should win. But the polls were showing a Democratic advantage of sometimes in the double digits, but usually about 6 or 7 points, which is about the same as it was in 2008. It looks like this election had a somewhat lower turnout overall than in 2008, but the party split was just about the same. The self-identified Democrats outnumbered Republicans, so the polls turned out to be right.
Would either one of you care to talk about the racial breakdown of the vote?
And so it was pretty extreme this time. So we saw around only 6% of African Americans voting for Mitt Romney, a small minority of Hispanics voting for Mitt Romney.
Is that more than McCain got in 2008?
And so, well, it was far less than George W. Bush got, which
Right.
is in a lot of ways a
Yes.
more comparable election frame. So this is a real concern. If I was sort of a Republican leader, I would say, what's going on? Why can't we get more of these groups?
James, what do you think?
Well, this goes back to what I was saying about identity politics. I mean, look, blacks are going to vote for the first black president. That's expected. Blacks have voted Democratic reliably
This one
going back
didn't.
to 1964. I understand. I'm making I'm making generalizations here, which I don't think are invidious ones. The Hispanics, there has been more variation. But people make the argument that Republicans need to embrace looser immigration laws in order to attract Hispanics.
I disagree.
I'm of two minds about that. On the merits, I'm in favor of looser immigration laws. As a political matter, I don't think it necessarily helps the Republicans because Hispanics are just much better at that sort of ethnic pandering than Republicans are. So I think the result would be more Democratic voters.
I would agree. Jason, what do you think about that?
Well, so there have been a lot of issues that a party tended to lose at one point in time. People clamor to say the party should change on this in order to win. But if the party sort of sticks to their guns, sometimes they can actually persuade people. And so just to say Republicans should change might not be the best political advice, regardless of where one stands on the issue.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for those thoughts. We'll continue our analysis of the presidential election in just a moment. This is Be the People.